Cool. So I'm curious, I know besides Harbor Point people that I made them watch that probably like 2 weeks ago, who else has seen that video on CJ Connects?
I didn't see it on CJ Connects, I see it when you emailed it.
Okay. Cool.
Well, I seen half of it.
So I think that's kind of our point of showing the video. You know, it's almost like, you know, I feel like, you know, everyone's done that process before, but, you know, it kind of shows what's on CJ Connects for information at your fingertips. So if you do have any new hires, or anything like that, or any kind of like refresher of showing the units button, you know, so there's a couple different options on it that, you know, is beneficial. And we spend a lot of time on some videos and CJ Connect stuff, so we want to make sure that, you know, everyone's actively involved in it. The level of detail that we've seen there, that's what the normal everyday practices is. We all know that Mr. Ryan is detail oriented, so he's a detailer, so we're detail oriented. So that's kind of where we're going with CJ Connects. What I'd like to go through really quickly is just following up. Third page? Second page. So in hindsight, after looking at some results, and I got to tell you, the results of email lead shop for CJ actually went really well. So in hindsight, I probably should have put bad salesperson as one of the categories here, based on the fact that it's probably a lot of your comps. And so bad salesperson would be no follow-up at all. And that's actually strangely a lot of our comps. I shopped through email 3 of each property's comps. And fortunately, we did hear back from CJ's properties first. And the other properties, you know, you'll see the percentage is very low. We hear from them. So that's good. So we're actually one step in the right direction. So this kind of brings us to, you know, the next step. So we've really nailed down the fact that, you know, we're emailing leads. And so this procedure, or these kind of like little tips and hints, you know, can relate to replying to that email leads and phone inquiries, as well as, you know, following up after somebody visits. So it kind of goes hand in hand. So going through the good salesperson is kind of repetitive. It's an everyday thing, and we can probably do it blindfolded, just because, you know, a lot of our properties see a lot of tours, a lot of leads that come through, as we saw through the leasing funnel in May, that, you know, we're responding to lots of leads. So a good salesperson would, you know, collect the information through the email or through the tour. You know, all your traffic is entering to one site. You're going to follow up when you say you will, or not, and create an email response that answers the prospect's questions. So, you know, that's another thing that I know Lisa had brought up before is the hard part of trying to find like the personal information. We're going to get into that a little bit more on the best salesperson. In order to figure out why that person is moving, they have to provide you with some additional information, and that's easier done through a follow-up after a tour, because you already know that person. It's much more difficult to do that personalization after like an email lead that says something for a two-bedroom apartment in August. A good salesperson asks how the prospect wants to be contacted, and follow up as soon as possible, and then making the follow-up a priority. So that's kind of the general topics that I see kind of as a good salesperson. A better salesperson reaches out proactively, makes a personal connection. You know, as I said before, you know, email leads is a little bit difficult, but you know, there's most of the time, I would say probably 50% of the time, that the email leads does give some sort of a hint of reasons why they're moving. If they're moving to the area for work or school, you know, or have roommates. You know, you might be able to ask if they were, if they're going to UMass Boston, are you going to BU, if you have roommates, or, you know, or work, or where's your roommate, where's your roommate going? You know, stuff like that. Give the prospect customer-focused reason for providing contact information. So this is basically after your tour. You know, reasons why you want to follow up with them. You know, you can tell them you want to follow up because you want to make sure that, you know, they're on the right one for them. And if they had any questions on the neighborhood or the community of the area, you're happy to answer those questions for them. You know, regardless if they decide to rent with you. You know, you can still tell them about Derby Street shops after if women come and never told them about Derby Street shops. You know, those are the types of things that kind of So you kind of talk to them a little bit about so that you can do some little bit of personalization. A better salesperson actually, instead of just going through the motions and entering that email lead into one site, you know, you're entering that additional information. If that person said that they were actually looking to go to UMass Boston, BU, or Harvard, then that information is in there. So if you're not there for the next week on vacation, the next person that's in the office that comes up on one site for the follow-up tab knows, okay, this person is going to Harvard or going to BU, then they can email that person after and say that, you know, all right, so I realize you're going to Harvard or BU, this is a great location for you. Hey, what's going on?
It was in the middle of the road. Everybody left it.
That's awesome.
You brought it in.
I don't know, it was right in the middle of the road. I was like, oh, should I run it over or not?
You should have left it. Thanks,
Dead
Tom.
squirrel or something?
Those seagulls didn't get out of that.
So, moving on. Create an email response that engages the customer, gives a reason for the prospect to contact you. You know, I think this is always a good one. You know, this comes through, you know, just generating that rapport and really extracting information as you can through that email and through your tour so you can provide that information.
Is there any way we could have some kind of a camera system that takes a picture of people who walk through the door, and then we could associate it with the, that would really help me a lot. I mean, as soon as I see the things, oh my God, because I'll write stuff down. So, you know, sometimes you need to, I wonder if there's something, would it be legal?
Actually, Tom, why don't you
It wasn't, you can definitely take pictures of people, you can't record their voice
Right.
without, so you could, I just don't know.
Tom, that's a good idea. I think
I'd be kind of creeped out by it.
I didn't even know about it. Hey, what about public eyes?
Right?
Tom, I think that might be a good idea.
I just want to connect one with this spot. It might help.
Why don't you start that process off while you're doing it?
See, this is how the customer says, why don't you run with it? Which is what he did when I started the YouTube videos. Why don't you run with that?
And you have like 18,000 views.
Speaking of YouTube videos, honestly, if anybody's looked at it, Tom is killing it. So Tom has, like on YouTube, he has like 1,800?
It's got to be 20,000 views.
20,000 views.
I think it would be an awesome idea if Tom was the YouTube video guy for all of the properties.
That's kind of his job.
You don't need commissions, Tom. Seriously. You're just doing YouTube. He can come and take videos of our properties.
We can figure, I mean, he's killing it, and then the second is killing it is Karen.
I know, and I started after Tom now. Okay?
Sam
They're
Slack is
moving on.
amazing.
And then last place is Marley Station, has 0 views. Kingsland's second place, and then Ramblewood, I mean Queen Anne's, and then Ramblewood, and then Peninsula, and then Oak Hill, I think, or something. But honestly, no, Tom. Anyway, that's gonna be the next meeting.
So,
I want to join
think
that.
about the face
YouTube is next week.
YouTube face recognition software and all this stuff now, and there's no free to it. So that's just, you know, it might, I know it sounds ridiculous, but it might help a little bit, you know, just to kind of put a face to just a thought, you know, maybe it's 10 years down the road or 5 years.
Get glasses.
I just want my e-brochure to be right. I don't even need a face recognition. I just want a phone with caller ID, that's what I want. I mean, that's what I'm still fighting for, so.
We just got here.
I just want the cell phone.
All right.
Sorry.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Just appreciate it.
I'm back on track now.
Tom, in the January, let me know how that goes. The last thing, kind of the better salesperson, is use follow frequency guidelines. So we all know what the frequency guidelines are based on Kennedy's quick steps that he created. Best salesperson, this is kind of my favorite category. This kind of goes through kind of best practices that I think is probably effective that I haven't experienced in my shops. I don't know if you guys have either. Use more than one contact method to reach people. I've been talking to other, which is strange. I've been talking to other marketing people in the other property management companies, and they make it. You know, we have that as a step on our follow-up is to contact that person by phone first, and then email them. They say that, they try to make their properties do that, and they say they do that, but my results today do not show that they follow up at all. But I think if somebody leaves a phone number and email address, I think the first method of contact, I think is important for the phone call. And I believe most of us do that, but, staying consistent and making sure we do that, I think we're gonna get a better rate from, the lead to appointment ratio, rather than just sending a general email. Most of our properties are actually emailing the prospect within 2 to 3 hours, which is great. So how fun would it be to get a phone call within about an hour or 2 hours from that email that you sent? So that kind of makes it, from the better salesperson to the best salesperson. And this is kind of the game the agreement with the prospect on how often you will follow up. So kind of set the expectation with the prospect, either on the phone or actually after the tour, and say, how would you like me to follow up? It's kind of a difficult question because sometimes that person says, I don't want you guys, as a leasing person to follow up with me. I'll follow up with you. But I think it does create, whether they say yes or no to follow up in the method of contact, that you are interested, and I think that question is really important. The one-site notes to differentiate. So if the person is wearing a Red Sox sweatshirt that day, maybe put in the notes that says that person was wearing a Red Sox, and if they won last night, they won the World Series or won a special game, or it's a real bummer that Jim Kobe Ellsbury sides with the Bronx. But I don't think that's a big deal, myself personally. But stuff like that, stuff that you don't think of outside the box. If you're none of us actually accept pets, but if they bring up their dog's name, or if they have a daughter or a son, or their names, in conversation through the tour, it's always fun to bring up. If they mention I'm going to go to the ice skating rink with little Billy later on this afternoon, in the email you can be like, hey, how did the ice skating rink with little Billy go? Things like that, and people love their kids, obviously, and those things will probably drive them home to make them feel like they're actually at home. Schedule future follow-ups during each prospect interaction entered to one site and act upon it. So, this goes to the consistency and making sure that we're following the quick steps. I think most of us are, but I think it's just important to kind of put it out there that one site's there for us to use, and if we use it appropriately, it's actually going to probably help us get more leases by making sure that the tasks and follow-up are managed correctly on a daily basis. Not even daily, I would say probably hourly basis, to make sure that we're on top of, making sure that little Billy gets followed up on every day in a timely manner. Because, me personally, if I'm looking for an apartment, if I need to move next month, I'm going to make my decision rather quickly. Other people may not, but I'm going to make my decision quickly. So if we're on top of making sure we get that done, and putting a little thing about little Billy in there, I'm going to feel a little bit more comfortable with that property than another one. This goes, utilize tools in one site to plan and manage and follow-up activities. So it kind of goes through that task toolbar, making sure the appointments is nice and cleared out, and understand what your day comes out to, and also the new lead section is clear. So you're managing that new lead section every day. Adopt effective time management skills to plan every day follow-up with your prospects. I know this is difficult, for our busy offices, and everyone I think here is, works on site or has worked on site before, and understands that the phone rings, people are coming through the door, and you have people sitting in front of you that are looking for apartments. So that obviously is probably the number one priority. But the number two priority really is the follow-ups. We're here as salespeople for corporate events and for your property. We're here to make the sales and get leases for the community and for the company. And so, it is difficult to kind of determine and prioritize your day. I can't say you can forget about all the extra emails and listen to the phone calls. But what I've learned at Harbor Point, the top two priorities is really the person in front of you that's looking to put money down in the apartment, and the second priority is really that lead that needs to be managed, or that follow-up activity that you've already saw on site. So prioritize your day so to manage time effectively that way. And then lastly, and we're doing this at Harbor Point kind of at a different level right now, is we're following up with our leads now that have not rented, and really asking a lot more questions rather than, oh, why didn't, if you didn't rent. And I know it's difficult. I'm saying this is, this is almost like an easy process. You call them up on the phone, oh, yeah, I rented at Facts and Comments. It's really difficult for them to probably tell you that information. And so, you're obviously not going to hunt down that person that you haven't heard from. It's hard, you're going to call and get emails, but you're not going to really find that person. But you should make an active effort to find out where your people are renting from. In addition to that, as a kind of a best salesperson approach, is we're actually going to make it a point to call our 3 or 4 competitors and find out who's renting from them, and find out what their demographics are looking like. And we've seen a really slow spell at Harbor Point over the last 2 months. Our leases are down. I'm not throwing up the red flags yet, but if our leases are down now, our traffic is down, and I think some of our traffic is down, some of our other properties, that might be a sign of things to come for 2014. That we might not be able to get the 18% increases or increased occupancy levels. So I think that kind of drives it home where the best salesperson comes into effect to make sure we're following these steps in order to get those leases and tours. So it all really comes down to that funnel. We need a certain amount of leads, appointments, traffic, leases, and approved applicants to actually people move in. So it really comes down to all that. What I wanted to do is kind of share the results of the shops. It's kind of fun.
This is like waiting through the commercials for the end of the show to see what happens.
So it's not fancy and pretty like Kennedy's presentation. It is, but. Alright. So, Jennifer Roach was the lead person yesterday. And you can see on the left column, that's when I contacted each one of these properties. You guys want to see what properties they are?
Can you make that bigger?
It's